So, just like last week, I am going to go relatively quick in terms of this power rankings, and the reason why I have to do it very quick is because I have to do the World Cup Group E prediction next, and then I have to eat. And it is now, what time is it? 7:58 right now in the evening, and I haven't ate, and I'm getting a little bit hungry. So, without further ado, let's begin the power rankings, and in 23rd, and as long as this team will not be able to snap their long losing streak, they will be stuck here. And I'm talking about Colorado, who is now 8 games without a win or a draw. They're currently in an 8-game losing streak right now. So, like I said, as long as they don't win another game or draw another game, they're going to stay in 23rd. And in 22nd, this team would have been near the bottom of the table. My Quakes team would have clearly be in the bottom of this power rankings after what happened in that heartbreaker against LAFC. But because the fact that Colorado continues to lose, it's hard to put them. It's really hard to put Colorado up a spot and put the Quakes down to 23rd when Colorado has this miserable losing streak. That just completely goes against what my power rankings is. And in 21st, another team with a long losing streak, that is Orlando City, who's now lost 5 in a row. So you can see in this bottom row right here, and I actually gone back to the old kind of pyramid. Well, it's not really a pyramid anymore, but this kind of old kind of style of me putting the numbers and putting each tier instead of the pyramid one where I put like 1, 2, 3 and then the rest like that. So you can see the bottom 3 teams. This is what I call the losing streak club, because this team has 8 games, this team has 4 games, and this team has 5 games in terms of the losing streak right now. So yeah, unless one of these teams will not snap out of that losing streak club and left the losing streak club, they are not really going to move up whatsoever. They're going to be right around this spot. Which brings us to 20th, and this team stays the same, and that is Montreal. And despite the fact that Montreal did lose this weekend, like I said, they're not really going to be slide down any spot, because as long as these 3 teams are not going to get a win or get a draw, teams that is above them is going to not slip up, even though if they lose. And in Montreal case, that is exactly what happened. But in 19th place, and this team moved up 2 spots from last week, and that is Seattle. Now, if Seattle would have lost this one, then I could debate that they probably would be part of the losing streak club, even though Seattle they don't really have a losing streak. They kind of have a winless streak. That's what it is. But the Sounders pick up a much deserved 2-1 win against DC United, moved them up a tier in the power rankings. And in 18th place, this team lost 4 spots, and I believe they are the biggest loser this week. And speaking of which, that's what DC United is. So I gave hope that DC United was going to beat the Sounders, and they reward my hope by losing them. And because of that, you get punished and get back into where you've pretty much been throughout this whole year, right around this kind of area. I don't recall DC ever climb as high as 14th. That's where I put them last week. And I'll get a better clarification once we get to the halfway mark of the season, which is going to be in July, where I'm going to do the same thing I did a couple of weeks ago, where I look at the first 10 weeks of how each team has done according to the power rankings. And in 17th place, and this team stays the same, is going to be Chicago. So the Fire drew against New England. It's a home draw against New England. It's not really the most impressive thing because, it's a draw at home. And, usually most of the time when I see a team draw at home, I usually put them right at the same spot, or they lose the same spot if the team that they're facing that they should have clearly beat. But New England is one of those teams that you could say that, yeah, it's a team that they definitely could beat, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to them because of the inconsistent form the Fire has been in. So because of that, I put them in 17th place. And in 16th place, this team lost 3 spots from last week, and that is Philly. So Philly climbed all the way up to 13, which I think is also the highest they have climbed in the power rankings last week, but they decided to go back to their old forms, and they decided to have a bunch of chances in that game against TFC, but they just cannot put that one into the back of the net because that is how we've been doing this whole season. Nobody on this team can finish. That is the Union. So they're back into 16th place, and in 15th place, and actually this is also the biggest loser. This is actually tied with DC with the biggest loser title this week, and that of course is RSL. So RSL had a good run, and then for whatever reason they went to LA and they lost that game. And I know RSL is very bad this year on the road, but come on, LA, a team that everybody has able to beat whenever they visit StubHub Center. I mean, there's only like, what, 2 teams or 3 teams this season that has beat LA when they played the Galaxy at StubHub Center. The fact that RSL wasn't able to do that is a little bit disappointing. Well, I wouldn't say a little, but that's definitely really disappointing. And RSL is kind of back in this mediocre kind of spot, and that's where they've been kind of belonging. They're kind of like right in the middle of the pack, kind of like mediocre and stuff like that. I mean, in some way, I would say maybe Chicago should be around that area, but I would say that the difference between Chicago mediocrity and RSL mediocrity is that RSL mediocrity comes from when they can win at home, and since they have had a couple of games in a row at home where they're able to win, and that last kind of couple of games where they started to finally get things going, but now all of a sudden they look like the same RSL that we know. That is the difference between Chicago's mediocrity and RSL mediocrity. Chicago mediocrity is just, it's pure mediocrity. I mean, it is just so inconsistent how the Fire has been this season, where it's so unpredictable what they're going to do. Well, I wouldn't say unpredictable, but if you get the pattern of how the Chicago Fire has been throughout each game, you will know that it's pretty predictable that what's going to happen in their next game. And since they have got a couple wins in a row, I'm pretty sure that they are due to get a loss, although they're playing Colorado this week, so that does not count, okay? That doesn't really count whatsoever. But yeah, in 14th, and this team moves up 3 spots from last week, and that, of course, is Houston. Or, I beg your pardon, they moved up 2 spots from last week, and that, of course, is the Dynamo, who took care of business against Colorado and moved up 2 spots. And in 13th place, this team is the biggest mover of this week, and rightfully so, because this is probably the biggest result that they got this week out of the other team, and that, of course, is Vancouver, who absolutely destroyed Orlando City at home 5-2. It could have been 5-1 in this game if they didn't concede, like, literally right near the death, but still, scoring 5 goals and absolutely dominating Orlando City like that is just pretty amazing, and that has to feel good if you're a Whitecaps fan, because let's just say that leading up to this game, there was still a lot of uncertainty with this Whitecaps team, even though technically they have a 6-game unbeaten streak right now. It's weird that, when we talk about unbeaten streak, when I always talk about teams that have unbeaten streak, I always praise them and stuff like that, but Vancouver, their 6-game unbeaten streak, the reason why I don't praise them a lot is because if you look in that 6-game unbeaten streak, they drew 4 times in that unbeaten streak. So when you drew 4 times in a 6-game unbeaten streak, it's not really that impressive. And there were also some games that they should have won during that period where they drew 4 straight games. But yeah, in 12th place, this team moved up 3 spot, and this is also probably one of the highest that they've been in. And that, of course, is Minnesota. So I feel like I moved Minnesota a little bit too high because, one, they didn't even play this week, and two, they're probably going to move back down in the power rankings later on. So I'll just say this to all Loons fan: if you lose the next match, don't be surprised that you potentially could be the biggest loser, because I move you up so high because other team around them either lost or you're just getting pushed to be right around that 12th spot. But yeah, Minnesota is going to be in 12th place. And then in 11th place, this team lost 2 spots from last week. And that, of course, is the Revs. Now, unfortunately for the Revs, even though they did get that draw against Chicago, and yes, I know what you're probably thinking: how in the world did I put Chicago with them staying at the same spot? But I dropped New England down 2 spot, even though this was a game where, you know, even if they get a point out of this, I think they'll be pretty happy with it, consider the fact that the Revs are not very good on the road. Well, the only problem for them is that the other team around them have won. So the other team include LA Galaxy, Toronto, LAFC. All those other teams that were around them won. And if I would have moved the Revs down, that means I would have to move Minnesota into 11th, and that is just a little bit too much. So for me, the Revs are going to be staying in 11, but they have a chance to move back up in the next game. And speaking of those teams that I mentioned before, in 10th, it's going to be the Galaxy, who moves up 2 spots from last week. So the Galaxy with an impressive 3-0 win against RSL, and certainly looked like a team that could potentially started to make a run, and certainly looked like a team that was the Galaxy of the first couple of weeks of this season. You know, it's still a long climb for them to get back to where they were in the first part of the season when they were all the way up in 2nd place. But they're getting there. They're starting to kind of figure stuff out. And, you know, against RSL, I wouldn't say it's a very impressive victory because everybody beats RSL except for Seattle. But yeah, the Galaxy in 10th place. And in 9th place, this team moves up 1 spot from last week. And that, of course, is TFC. So TFC, of course, moves up 1 spot after they were able to get a 2-0 victory against the Union. And it's a game that they were expected to win if they really want to start picking up and trying to get some points to get closer to that red line in the Eastern Conference. And they did exactly that. And if they keep winning, don't be surprised that they're going to be rising up the power rankings. And in 8th place, this team stay at the same spot, and that, of course, is LAFC. And I know LAFC fan is going to say that I am being I'm being a little bit salty, and I am kind of being a little bit kind of a loser in terms of not moving them up 1 spot after they completely smashed my heart in that game between the Quakes and LAFC. And in some way it is, but at the same time, teams around them also got a victory, and I just think that to get a last-minute winner against the Quakes, yeah, that's like saying getting a last-minute winner against Colorado or even Orlando City in some sense. So I wouldn't say it's very impressive, and you know, LAFC didn't even look that good in that game against the Quakes. The reason why they scored those 4 goals was 2 of the goals we just gifted to them, and the other 2 was just basically Tarbell could not save any shots that he should have definitely saved. And yeah, that's why I decided to not move them up whatsoever, despite that crazy 4-3 win. And in 7th place, this team moves down 2 spot, and that, of course, is Portland. So, again, it's the same dilemma with what I talk about with New England, of how, yes, they got a draw, but the team around them got a win, and those teams will have to jump them over when they got that win And that is what Portland is in the case right now. So Portland moved down 2 spots, and in 6th place, this team stays at the same spot, and that, of course, is NYCFC. So again, NYCFC, I probably maybe should have put them in 7th instead of putting Portland in 7th. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna switch them around. I'm actually gonna make a change here because it's only fair, because both of these teams draw, and both of these teams play some very tough opponent this week, that I feel like it's only fair to switch them, make them both drop 1 spots from this weekend, because, like I said, both of these teams drew this weekend. Teams around them got that big victory, so that's why I have to move them down 1 spot from that. And also, because of that, I am actually gonna just quickly change here on the computer. And for those of you that don't already realize, I am looking at the